Sure, you're brave enough to explore the dreaded house on the hill, but are you prepared to betray your fellow explorers? Or even be betrayed by them? Well, never fear. Actually fear. Wait, have lots of fear. This is how to play Betrayal at the House on the Hill, 3rd edition. In Betrayal, you and your compatriots play explorers, each drawn to the haunted house on the hill for various reasons. In the first part of the game, explorers delve into the house, discovering rooms, acquiring items, and triggering unholy omens. At some point, the haunt will occur, one of 50 possible second acts of the game. In the haunt, the roles of the players may significantly change, including the possibility of one player betraying the others. The side which meets the victory conditions of the haunt first wins the game. To set up the game, each player first chooses a character from the 6 double-sided character boards. They take the matching figure and colored character base, slotting them together. Character boards feature a portrait and short biography, and 4 trait tracks with numbered values. The 4 traits: speed, might, knowledge, and sanity. Place a trait clip on the value marked in green on each of the 4 tracks. These are the starting values for each character. We'll talk more about these traits shortly. Next, take the cards and organize them by type: event cards, item cards, and omens. Separately shuffle each into a face-down draw deck within reach of all players. Next to these decks, place the dice and monster and traitor reference cards. Deal 1 player reference card to each player and return any extras back to the box. In the center of the table, and make sure you have plenty of room, place the triple room tile. It features 3 rooms: the entrance hall, where each character figure is placed, and the ground floor hallway and staircase. About 8 to 10 inches away, place the basement landing and upper landing tiles. Shuffle the remaining tiles into a face-down draw pile near the cards. Set aside any tokens or tracks. Those might be used later in the game. We'll see. Finally, as a group, the players review the 5 scenario cards and choose one to play. Scenarios provide context for the character's exploration of the house and also determines the haunt the players may face during the game. Read the back side of the card aloud without looking at the table on the front side. Return the remaining scenario cards back to the box. Gameplay occurs in turns, starting with the player whose character has a birthday coming up next, then proceeding clockwise around the table. On their turn, the active player may do any of the following in any order: move around the house, traversing tiles up to their speed value. They may travel through a doorway on an unconnected side of a tile to discover a new room. More on that shortly. They may trade items and omens with other characters on their tile, and they may use any items or omens which provide special actions, each of which can be activated once a turn. Such actions are marked with this symbol on the card, such as the rabbit's foot ability, which allows a player to re-roll a die once per turn. A player's turn ends as soon as they can no longer take an action or choose not to. Let's take a look at these mechanics in a little bit more detail. Movement. At the beginning of their turn, the active player checks their current speed trait according to the marker clip. The number shown is the maximum number of tiles they may move through on their turn. Each point allows the player to move to an adjacent tile. Tiles are adjacent if they share a directly connected doorway. Some tiles note specific connections to other tiles, meaning they're considered adjacent once both tiles have been discovered. Additionally, some tiles or tokens have obstacles, which require 2 points of movement to leave instead of the standard 1. When moving from a tile through an unexplored doorway, the player may move into the new space to discover a new room. Some rules about this. The house has 3 regions: basement, ground floor, and the upper floor. When discovering, take the top tile of the stack if it corresponds with the floor of the room you're discovering. If the top tile on the stack does not match the region, bury it by putting it on the bottom of the stack and try the next tile on the stack. Repeat until you find one and place it so at least one doorway aligns with the door you're moving through. The exploring character is placed on the tile, and the player should resolve any text on the tile, like the library, which says, "When you discover this tile, gain 1 knowledge." They'll then move their trait clip on the knowledge trait up 1 space. Lastly, if the tile has an event, item, or omen symbol, the player draws a card from the matching deck and reads it aloud, resolving any effects as instructed. Once a player discovers a tile and resolves its effects, their turn immediately ends. Events are the spooky things that occur throughout the house. They tend to have consequences, which may be positive or negative. When drawn, the player reads the card and follows its instructions, then buries the card by placing it on the bottom of its deck. Many events require the player to make a trait roll, providing different outcomes based on the result. When making a trait roll, the player takes a number of dice equal to their relevant trait's value and rolls them. Items are the useful objects players might find as they explore the house. They provide special abilities to help with survival. The player reads the text aloud and keeps the card face up in front of them. They now possess that item. Keep in mind that you may not take a special action with an item that you did not possess at the start of your turn. Omen cards are the eerie harbingers of evil. The player reads it aloud and resolves its effect. Omens have the potential to trigger the haunt. When drawing an omen or otherwise instructed to make a haunt roll, roll dice equal to the total number of omens that have been drawn by all players throughout the game. If the result of your roll is 5 or more, the haunt begins. More on the haunt in a sec. But first, let's talk about those traits: might, speed, knowledge, and sanity. As the players explore the house, they may gain or lose traits. For example, if a card instructs you to gain 1 might or lose 1 speed, simply move the clip for that trait 1 space up or down as instructed. Moving a clip may not immediately change the value of a trait, as some explorers' character boards include duplicate numbers. A trait that has reached its highest value cannot be raised any higher. If an effect tells you to heal a trait, return that trait to its starting value, shown in green. If that trait is already at or above its starting value, it stays where it is. If a trait is at its lowest value, shown in red, it is critical. Characters cannot die before the haunt begins, meaning if they take damage that would cause any of their traits to go below critical, they stay at critical instead. Once the haunt has started, if any of a character's traits are reduced to the skull symbol, that character dies. Sorry. The rules. Also, the game might instruct players to take physical, mental, or general damage. In those cases, they may split the loss between various traits: might and speed for physical damage, knowledge and sanity for mental damage, and any of the 4 for general damage. Trading. Once per turn, if they are on the same tile as another explorer, they may exchange ownership of any number of items and omens with that explorer. There's just one condition: you cannot give someone an item or omen if you've already used its special action or attacked with it during the current turn. Okay, it's haunt time. At some point in the game, a player will make a haunt roll with a result of at least 5 or more, or if the last omen card in the deck is drawn, the haunt begins immediately. When this happens, look at the other side of the scenario card from setup and find the omen that was just drawn. The table will provide a haunt number and reveal which player, if any, is the traitor. The rules of the game have likely now changed. Whereas everyone was once a party of explorers, now it's 1 versus all, or in the case of some haunts, other configurations like free-for-all, cooperative, and even hidden traitor. In most cases, though, 1 player will become the traitor while the remaining players become the heroes. Each group finds the numbered entry of their selected haunt in their respective haunt books. The heroes use the Secrets of Survival book, while the traitor reads from the Traitor's Tome. The heroes read the introduction section to their haunt aloud to all players at the table, then follow the setup instructions in the order listed. The traitor then reads their introduction section to their haunt aloud to all the players at the table and follow their setup instructions in the order listed. The heroes and the traitor then move to separate rooms or areas, literally. Like, not on the map, in the space you're playing in, essentially where they cannot hear each other. Once separated, the heroes and traitor read the rest of their respective haunt instructions to learn the special rules, win conditions, and in the case of the heroes, discuss strategy. The traitor can talk to themselves if they wish. Makes sense, they're probably not perfectly sane anyway. Once everyone is ready, play continues with some notable rules modifications. The player to the left of the haunt revealer will take the first turn. The heroes and the traitor are still considered explorers and can take the same actions as normal, but there are no more haunt rolls. In addition to the special rules listed in the haunt, there's also Traitor's special powers, providing an edge over the heroes. They, as well as any monsters they control, ignore tiles' damaging effects and treat event symbols as optional. If they do choose to draw an event card, they must resolve it. Also, characters on opposing teams are considered obstacles to one another. Remember, obstacles means it takes 2 movement points instead of 1 to move out of their tile. Monsters, might now be in the game. Controlled by the traitor, monsters have fixed traits and move by rolling dice equal to their speed trait and then moving tiles up to the result. Additionally, most monsters cannot be killed but are otherwise stunned when they take damage, flipping their token to the stunned side. See page 19 in the rules for more details. Attacking is now an action option available to all players, given their chosen target is on the opposing team. Once per turn, a character may attack, initiating competing rolls of might, or in the case of some items, another trait. The player who rolls higher deals physical or mental damage to their opponent, and their opponent will take damage equal to the difference between the 2 roll results. In the case of a tie, no damage is dealt, they just sort of fist bumped. Finally, death is now possible for the explorers. If any of their traits reach the skull symbol, they die. Tip their figure over. Good news though, once per turn, while a player is on the same tile as another explorer's corpse, they may take 1 item or omen that the dead character once carried. I didn't say great news. The first team to complete their objective wins the game. And that's the basics of Betrayal at the House on the Hill, 3rd edition. For the specific differences from previous editions, see page 5 of the rulebook. And be sure to check out the new expansion, Betrayal at Neibold House, The Evil of Pennywise. Inspired by It Chapter 2, the expansion features new haunts, characters, room tiles, and more. You're ready to explore the house? Have fun, and I'll see you on the other side.